What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am practicing one of my New Year's resolutions, which is to stay up to date with what is happening in the world. I used to only know about stuff if it only was on Twitter or Instagram or just any form of social media, but now I'm making the effort to click on news alerts and actually open up BBC, CNN, and other reputable sources to actually get factual information on what is happening in the world. So let's get into the trending topics that I found. As most of you know, 9 people died in a helicopter crash this past Sunday on January 26th, 2 of those people being Kobe Bryant and his daughter. May all the passengers on that flight rest in peace. Kobe Bryant was 41 years old when he passed. He was a very well-known NBA player, and his death has affected millions of fans all across. Everyone was very devastated to find out this news. They've released more information regarding the crash and the accident. They've been going over the audio between the pilot and ground control. They also found out that the conditions were so foggy that day that police actually had to call down their own helicopters. And when that information was first released, people were calling the pilot negligent and saying that the situation was unavoidable, but it turned out that that pilot actually was licensed to fly in those conditions. He was very experienced. He had logged over 8,000 hours by last July. Like, he knew what he was doing, but you know, tragedy strikes. Unfortunately, he didn't clear one of the mountains or hills, and it was because his helicopter didn't have an adequate terrain tracking system to help him see through that fog. That's what's being said, but you know, they're still investigating, and I'm sure Kobe's family still wants answers, and it should just be left between the passengers and their families. But with Kobe Bryant being so well known, that information is getting released everywhere and available for the public to see. Again, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. The WHO has declared a national public health emergency over the coronavirus. Now, the term coronavirus actually refers to a group of viruses that can be found in specific animals. We've actually had 2 illnesses in the past that have developed from a coronavirus. We had MERS, which is Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, and then SARS, which is Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome. This coronavirus is actually a very new version that they are now researching and hopefully finding a cure or a vaccine or something that can combat it, because the death toll is raising every single day. It first started in Wuhan, China, and it has spread all over the globe. There have now been 5 cases reported in the US. The first 4 cases were from people that like directly came from China to the US, so there hadn't been any person-to-person spread, but they did report that first human-to-human contact of it today, but it was between a patient and their spouse. So, you know, that was a household thing. They're hoping that they've contained it enough to where it's just not spreading elsewhere in the US. However, the most scary part of this virus is that you actually can go about 2 to 14 weeks before you even show any symptoms. So
oh, now you can't speak English.
One of the scariest things about this virus is that you can go 2 to 14 days before you even show any symptoms. So you could be walking around for about 2 weeks not even knowing you have it and already spreading it. Now, it started in China, like I mentioned, which is a very heavily populated place, and everything is so crowded and packed together. So it spread like wildfire. They believe it came from one of the wild animals because those markets are huge over there. They also think that they're lying about how many people have it over there just because of how large of a population it actually is. There are lots of conspiracies out there already about this thing. I'm actually gonna go ahead and read you a couple of my favorites. 1720, the Great Plague. 1820, first cholera pandemic. The Spanish flu, 1920, 2020, novel coronavirus. If you actually like go back and look at the timelines of those plagues, they weren't exactly hitting the 20 marks for all of those. And there were also other illnesses in between those times that didn't get counted. So nice try.
See, I'm telling you, I have the mind of a I have the mind of a mastermind. What's that? I don't know, but
like, come on now. The new fad disease called the coronavirus is sweeping headlines. Funny enough, there was a patent for the coronavirus that was filed in 2015 and granted in 2018. They're saying that it was by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, not my dog Bill. Apparently the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation predicted that it could kill 65 million people and still decided to patent the virus. Okay. Apparently, the world's most dangerous pathogens are in this lab in Wuhan, and this coronavirus accidentally escaped the lab. Yes, the virus just decided to get up and they said, I'm getting out of here, and they snuck out of the lab and now they're all over the world. I don't know, people, I don't know. Now, where it really came from, Wuhan has, or just China in general, they're really big on hunting wild animals and eating them. They first said it came from a bat, then they said a snake, but they're just like one of those crazy animals gave this virus, and now they're trying to crack down and maybe even ban just wildlife eating in general over there. But like I said, I mean, if you're in China, I don't know if there's much you can do, but if you're anywhere else, just wash your hands. If you are showing any flu-like symptoms, actually people are saying you should be way more worried about the flu, again, if you're not in China. They're saying that you should be way more worried about the flu than this coronavirus at this point. But then again, everybody thinks the government lies, so, you know, do what you want. Protect yourself, do what you can, wash your hands. And last, and also definitely the least interesting of today's segment, the impeachment trial of Donald Trump. There are like way too many components to this whole thing, so I'm kind of just gonna like Cliff Notes it down. It's funny, when this first came out, everyone was like, oh my gosh, Donald Trump is impeached, he's not gonna be able to be president next year, but they actually don't even know how the impeachment trial process actually works. I honestly didn't even know, and had to do a little bit of research myself before I went out and said anything. Now, mind you, this is only the third time this has ever happened in the United States. The first time was with Richard Nixon and all of that Watergate stuff, and then we had Bill Clinton and his affair and the lying and all that junk, and then we have Donald Trump here, who is facing 2 charges. First one being him seeking help from the Ukraine to help him get re-elected this year. He apparently did so by withholding $391 million in military funds as a bargaining chip. Of course he says he didn't do it. He was also accused of obstructing Congress. I am so sorry. This was after the White House refused to allow staff to testify at last year's impeachment trial. Now, the impeachment process is actually a very long process. It goes to the House votes. If the majority votes yes, this president is bad, then it goes to the Senate, and then there is this long trial, and then he's impeached. Even if that goes through, there's also has to be a whole separate vote that will allow him to, disallow him to, I can't even talk. Oh, forgot to note, this video was filmed on January 30th. So if you go to fact check anything after this, make sure it's around this time before you call me out on giving false information. I don't know what has occurred by the time I upload this video. But right now, Trump is in the Senate portion of this, and they're doing a whole question and answer process, and I don't even know what happens after that. Will Trump be kicked out of office? Will he be allowed to run again after he gets kicked out of office? I don't know. We'll have to stay tuned and find out. Thank you guys so much for watching this. I hope you guys have a great night. I encourage you to also stay up to date with what's going on in the world, just like I am. I know it can be drowning when you're just receiving all of this negative information and craziness going on, but it's just good to be aware and educated. So I definitely think you guys should hop on board and start watching and reading the news as well. All right, guys, good night.